pissed. Welcome back to an installment from author Skull Knitter. Title: I own a shop where the haunted and damned come to be sorted. Let's get into it. My shop is in the down below, on the periphery of all other shops you go to. No one finds my shop by accident. There has to be intention. Conscious, unconscious, it doesn't matter what type of attention. What matters is that you have something you need to get rid of and something I want. Your haunted possessions. You might not know they're haunted on the surface, but maybe you've been noticing that your utensils drawer keeps sliding open in the night. Maybe you've noticed how the floorboards creak with concrete heavy steps in the midnight hours. Perhaps you've seen the face of a corpse in the bathroom mirror, sagging like a pumpkin left to rot in the sun. You're finding my store is not made with a conscious awareness. It never is. It's like that by design. I compare it to the beck and call of Skull and Hattie chasing each other's tails in the bruised nebulas of a starlit sky. Instinctual might be a good word for it. Years ago, when my shop first opened, a pot-bellied gentleman in his 40s stumbled in through my glass doors. My shop is small, crammed with items, less so at that time. I looked up as the doorbell rattled. The man had a sweat-soaked suit and kept dabbing his forehead. They usually come like this, confused, muttering to themselves. Not usually so sweaty, though. He held a rattling wood frame with intricate spoons from all manner of countries pinched at the handles. I saw her behind him immediately. He was unaware of her presence. A festering thing. She was cloyed and hunched over, spines crossed in jagged arcs along her back like an iguana's tail. Her eyes bulged from the wrinkled lips of her sockets, like overripe tomatoes ready to burst. The pupils were swollen, protruding discs that jutted around, glazing across the room. Her skin sagged and drooped from her body. She held an air of worry about her. I watched her eyes dart to the spoon collection more than once. Her anchor item. Ah, a malicious old one. What was she to you? I inquired. To me? His eyes flicked down to the spoon collection. He looked like a man lost in a dream. My mother. I clicked my tongue in response. A matronly devil. When you're a spiteful hag, even to your own kin, it tends to break your form down when you die. If you have a stabbing exterior in life, I pointed past him, towards her rigid spines. You get to have one in death, too. He turned his head to look behind him groggily. If he saw her, his eyes didn't show it. I flicked my fingers in front of his eyes. 1,000 cash. He set the spoon collection on the counter. His movement was dreamlike. He rifled through his wallet and slapped $100 bills on the counter. They always come with the exact change, almost like they knew what I'd charge before they came. I'm not a monster. 1,000 is fair for my service. At least I think so. He stumbled away. His mother, hunched and hissing, eyed his departure. She turned to follow him, but the pull of her anchor object held her prisoner. She scratched elongated nails against invisible walls. He slipped through the door. He'd never find his way back. He'd never remembered this happened. He'd just be $1,000 light, and he'd be able to sleep again. I touched the anchor object while she was distracted, thumbing over each spoon. David, come back, you coward. Leaving your own mother behind. How cruel. How terrible a son. Her words came through gritty, buried in gravel. He can't hear you, I said aloud, returning my eyes to the spoon collection, flipping over a gold-wrapped spoon with the Egyptian flag embossed in the handle. She whipped around. I could feel those bulging eyes center on me. You, she said, venomous. Me? I retorted. She rushed forward on all fours, reptilian, spikes flaring out like porcupine quills from all across her shrunken frame. I wagged my finger. Not one step closer, or I dissolve your anchor point in fluoroantimonic acid. The Teflon tub was already open below the counter, half filled with the super acid. One of her lazy eyes wandered up to the ceiling. The other examined the collection in my hand. I saw a flicker of understanding across her face. Her smell was decidedly unwelcome. Old cough tablets, musty floral furniture, and all the pungent flavored aromas you'd find on crotchety old people. The scent of rot was only an afterthought. You play by the rules, or you lose your anchor. Do you know what happens to ships that lose their anchors? Fear dawned on the peeling folds of her face. They get lost in the ocean. She settled into a frigid crouch. Her spines had begun to sag back down into place. Good. You're going to be relocated then. Placed on the shelf at a local thrift store. You're going to sign a contract with me, bound in your blood. You're not going to hurt another living soul. All you did was torment in life, even in death. That ends now, here. The next person who picks you up will find that their luck has changed for the better. Maybe their missing car keys turn up on the stairs. Maybe they find an extra 20 in their coat pocket. I could see the rise of disgust, of inconvenience in her eyes. She delighted in herself. She'd always made things about her. I knew the type well. You have too much connection to your son. Can't have you going back there. I don't want you in my shop either. So it's either the acid, the untethering, and the black void can have you, or you live out with your tether item in peace, playing nice. She considered. Her mouth split at the cracks as she twisted her maw of hypodermic teeth around. I'll take servitude. I clapped my hands together. Wonderful choice. Let me grab my paperwork. I got up to move, but stopped myself. I slid back down for a moment and my eyes met hers. Oh, and if you're thinking about breaking this little contract, I want you to consider something. If you haunt again, if you cause malice again, you will find yourself back in my shop one day. Maybe the same owner, maybe 3 owners from now. You'll find yourself back here. Your kind always does. I saw the tremble rising in her gnarled hands, fingers like sharp tree roots. I saw the realization in her eyes. If that happens, your tether won't go into the acid. You won't stay in my shop. I set the contract down, wheeled around, and began clicking the dial on my gun safe open. I could feel the burn of her inquisitive stare. I teetered it open with a groan. The sound of countless overlapping screams filled the room, pained beyond recognition. The sound of eons of agony, eternities of suffering. Several objects rested in the safe. I flipped around. There was a terror in her eyes now, a small predator staring down a much larger one. You will go in here, forever. No autonomy, no free will, just pain. Of the spiritual kind, of the physical kind, of the biblical kind. Nothing but unbridled fear in her now. Her whole body rocked with it. Its malformed head slowly worked back and forth. Needless to say, she signed the contract, and I haven't seen her since. Or her son again, for that matter. You might be wondering about some of those screaming things in the safe. They are some objects, some tethered, that I cannot in good conscience release back into the public. Some things I can't even keep around in my store. Dangerous things. Things even I am afraid of. It started again, in some other wrinkle of time, with the jingle of a bell above my peeling white door. I felt it before it even came in. I saw it immediately in his black eyes, a man oozing with possession. Something I had never encountered before. A living being had become the anchor object, and the thing that writhed its way into my shop behind him made me swallow my tongue in fear. It was a roiling black pulse of static. It chittered like 1,000 cicadas. The world was alive with the sound of it, of something so wrong, so vile, it had somehow broken the rules, my rules. The feeling of deep sorrow came next, crashing into me like waves against a cliff. Some of these spirits, I can see their stories played out like a projection. Cracked edges, dull colors, but the picture is visible. As I stared into the crackling black mass, the visions overcame me. Women with wrists bound in copper wire down to the bone. I watched deft hands douse the screaming women in kerosene, laughing like it was the funniest thing it ever seen. A rough, calloused thumb flicking the lighter on and off, taunting. The 4 women were stylized in 80s fashion, at least as far as I could tell beneath all the blood. It didn't take long for him to flick the lighter forward. The women were consumed in a storm of fire. I tasted the acrid sizzle of their flesh. I could hear the way their hair and skin bubbled and popped in the fire. When they subsided, the visions, I heard it then. How my shop was alive with the devilish cries of tens of victims, the unfortunate prey of a serial killer. The presence hovering like black mist in my shop, something darker than the darkest thundercloud. Its static body cracked and pulsed with ozone electricity. It had real weight and power behind it. I told you these items come to my shop with intention. That usually means the intention of victims. But in this case, in this solitary case, the rules had been turned on their head. This monster had come, had brought itself to me, with a living host, out of intention. It knew I'd find it. Somehow, these seething darknesses always arrive on my doorstep. It knew it was only a matter of time. It wanted to take control. It wanted to present itself with a choice. Wanted me to make the choice this time. This mass murdering spirit had been born something black and strong. It didn't speak. Maybe it couldn't speak. But I knew the choice is like an old song stuck in the back of my mind. It could choose to let it go, and it would break away from its innocent anchored being, latching onto something immaterial, and haunt the earth like a locust swarm of consumption. Or I could kill its anchor point, harvest the skull from this innocent man's corpse, and gain control, but I would lose some of myself in the process. I thumbed a 9mm bullet into a revolver I kept in the drawer beneath the register. I pointed it at the man's chest. His eyes were hollow black orbs, but I could see the gentle cresting lines of humanity in his face. The laugh lines, the crow's feet. I couldn't think about the fact he had a wife and daughter at home. This entity, this black void, laughed in a sound like shifting tectonic plates. The cicada buzz grew louder. It allowed me to visualize all this man stood to lose. It wanted this decision to hurt. It succeeded. I pulled the trigger and the bullet shot through his chest. The man's back exploded outward behind him like a lit firecracker dropped in water. A spray of blood coated the carpet and walls. Oh, how the entity laughed. Oh, how I died a little inside. It had attached to his skull somehow, and the whole night it took me to cleave the man's head apart. 4 days, the carrion beetles I purchased ate away at the flesh stuck in all the little crevices of his skull. I made the rest of his body disappear. I cleaned up the sticky pool's blood. That oppressive cloud of static never left my side. Never stopped writhing with glee in the corner of my shop. I didn't care that it would be imprisoned in eternities of agony, because it was going to make me pay dearly for the opportunity. I was more than glad when I finally stowed away the yellow skull picked clean by beetles inside my safe. That entity was a serial murderer in life. In death, it was somehow worse. A roiling nightmare made manifest, and its entrapment inside the safe was a bittersweet one. I understood then how Zeus felt trapping the Titan Prometheus. In the end, I stopped it for good, but ultimately it had won, and it knew it. It had cracked my facade. It had taken a piece of me with it into the black pocket dimension of the gun safe. But having that type of evil out in the world, it's what causes wars, famine, mass violence. We all like to play around with hypotheticals. I had to make that choice. One soul to save thousands. A choice I'd pick every time. That's one I don't like to talk about. but I guess I just need to get it off my chest. A choice like that cuts deep, even for someone who's lived as many centuries as I have. But there are other things that don't belong in my shop. Ones I don't leave out on display, that I don't stow away, dip in acid, or donate to a thrift store. Ones that don't belong anywhere in our world anymore, that don't deserve to be untethered either. That crooked bell above my door jingled and chimed. Another time, another place. A young girl entered, unusual, but not unheard of. She carried an old fire truck in her hand, well worn with hours of play. Small chips of paint showed in the grooves of the plastic. She stood on her tiptoes and placed it on the countertop. Her eyes were cloudy, far away. She had a blue backpack strung across her back. The straps ran down like suspenders across her small shoulders. "Ah, I was wondering when you'd show up." A small smile graced her lips. "You have a little clinger, don't you? The fee is 12 cents for you." She nodded her head, small locks of hair drifting into her eyes. Then she reached into the pocket of her dress and produced 2 dull copper pennies and a dime. She set them on the countertop. 12 cents, an exceedingly small price for peace. "Thank you so much, little miss. Now where is he then?" I asked softly. She giggled slightly, her eyes still distant. She took off the blue backpack and set it on the floor in front of her. Then she took 2 steps back. Nothing happened for a few breaths. We both waited. Finally, a small blue hand extended from the folds of the backpack. 2 small legs pressed out of the fabric. A small, pale blue face peeked out. The backpack enveloped his small frame like a tortoiseshell. "There's the little guy," I said cheerfully. He looked close to bursting with tears, so much fear humming around in such a little body. A clear picture painted itself in the space behind him, an almost vision. Small, grasping hands pulling on an unsecured shelf. A teetering behemoth that came falling down with a creak that sounded more like a sigh. Then there was a crash. His skull was crushed instantly by heavy oak shelves. I took solace only in the fact that death was quick. "You met a violent and tragic end. Such a bad accident. I'm so sorry." He peeked out a little further. I saw tears welling in his eyes. Small, grasping fingers reached backwards, out toward his sister. He began to cry. The sound was high, like the babbling of a brook. "Oh, I know, little one. You've been so lost since you passed. It must be beyond frightening. But your sister doesn't understand. She feels fear whenever you move her toys at night, when you rustle the skirt of her bed. I know you are wanting to be seen, and you are now. You're seen." I moved beyond the lip of the counter and pulled the lid off a jar as I passed by. I produced a small orange sucker and peeled the wrapper off. I handed it to the boy as I lifted him up in an embrace. I held him tight to my chest. His sister wavered slightly where she stood, like a drunkard in an alley behind a bar. I waved her away with a smile. She slipped back through the door with a jingle. As I held the child to my chest, the tears turned to quiet sobs. Most young spirits don't end up here, lost in my store. But it happens on occasion, just like any store. And between you and me, these are the moments I value the most. I adore these brief moments where I don't have to prattle about the contracts or threatening or bind wicked spirits. As I held him closer to my chest, the impossibly small weight of his odd blue form, I noticed the deep bluish-black hue of his skin had begun shifting to a lighter tone, softening into a warmer shade of cyan, like the shallows of a warm ocean beach. I moved into my back room and slipped open the door of a rickety old dumbwaiter. I slid the infant inside. He was smiling now, arms extended further, less fear in his eyes. A wary understanding had formed in his tiny blue face, the outlines of comprehension, of peace. I slid the fire truck in and closed the door after him. He was clapping his hands together, now burbling. The dumbwaiter disappeared above me. gone into the ethereal, swimming, bright sea I caught only glimmers of. I don't know where that path leads. I only know that it's bright and full of joy. A place so much better than here. Awesome writing, man. Really, really dig it. Why don't you head over to Skull Knitter's Reddit page and let them know what you think. I'll put the link in the description. There is a part 2 of this. We'll definitely get around to it. I want to see what happens next. Like always, if you could please like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. It helps me tremendously. I am the Masochist. Farewell. Tremendously.